Talk Shoes. Recorded live.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Travis and Vic's Drunken Horror Adventures. We are live, and we've got our mustachioed aficionado of Elm Street on the line. What's up, Blake?
What's up? That's kind of a grand entrance. You forgot to put writer in there, but I liked it very much. I liked all the rest of it very much.
Musician, writer, all those things. Let's not forget. I've actually, as I said, I've talked to you privately. I've cracked your book. I have to laugh at something. I feel like you've been stalking me a little bit. I'll tell you why. There's a part in the first few chapters where, you know, the main character, he's talking about, his parents have made dinner, and it's a frequent dinner of theirs, and they made steak, baked potato, and Caesar salad. Well, in my house, that is a frequent dinner of ours.
It is also a frequent dinner here. It's one of my favorites, and I thought it was the quintessential sort of American family sit-down meal, and what better way to convey the terror than to have that meal violated.
Absolutely. I also like how you slipped in a Lisa character. That's always a good thing, slip in the life there.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And I appreciate that you got a chance to sit and read it. I think you'll really enjoy it once you finish it. And then there's also that other one I think you'll really enjoy, too. So I hope you have a good time.
For anybody who doesn't know, check out The Within by Blake Best. And I like it. It's a demonic possession story is the best way I can describe it. But there's more elements to it than that. And if you're a horror fan, which I would assume you would be if you're listening to the show, then it's going to, touch a nerve with you because there's a lot of homages and, throwbacks to lots of old movies as far as I can tell.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons we're here tonight is to talk about our love of the older movies, and I thought it would be great to include those kind of, tropes in this book. And then, of course, the Freddy Krueger thing, we all know how I feel about that. So,
Of course. Well, and here's the interesting thing, is that this week was the hardest list that Vic says he's ever done, and I think the reason for that, and I'm sure he would agree with this, is that he has not seen a lot of movies before 1970. Now, he's not on the line yet. He'll be on later. He's actually working right now. But, he hasn't seen a lot of the older movies like me. He doesn't have that, nostalgic love for the Universal Monsters or Vincent Price or any of that. So he came in, kind of like, shit, what have I seen and how can I rank this? So it was a little harder for him. I'm not saying that it was easy for us. And I think, next month's episode, because we're going to kind of do one of these once a month, is going to be even harder when we get into the 70s. But for now, tonight, we're doing the top 10 pre-1970s horror movies. And this, dates back as old as film. So anything before 1970, it qualifies for this list. So it's going to probably be pretty diverse, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't difficult for me, but what was difficult for me was trying not to play favorites on a decade. You'll notice as you hear my list, I tried to be fairly even and put a couple from each decade, but it was very hard to just narrow it down because, like you, I have seen a lot of these.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because there's a lot of eras before 1970. You've got the Universal Monsters era, and then you have the Atomic Age monsters, things like that. And then it goes from there. But, I mean, it's just interesting that we've got all these different eras, and we've got to pick 10. And that's not as, don't get me wrong, I had no problem picking 10 movies, but it's hard to narrow it down to 10 for me. But it also, brought up a lot of movies that maybe I haven't seen that I'd like to check out at some point, whenever I'm looking at the list of movies that were made before 1970.
Yeah.
So Vic's going to send me his list. But you and I can, I guess, go ahead and start into it now if you want to, because, like I said, this is going to be kind of a fun list show. It's going to be something we're going to do once a month, and we love our list shows, and this is just a built-in list show every month. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the format, everybody, real quick. Pre-1970s is this month. 1970s horror is next month, which I think is going to be the hardest one we do because we've got an entire decade of great movies. Then we're doing year by year starting in 1980. So it'll go 1980, 1981, 1982, all the way up to present day, which is going to be a real bitch because in the 90s we're probably going to hate our lives over those, or at least some of those. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. So
I would like to add, in addition to that, if it's at all possible, in keeping with the challenging spirit of this show and how things are always interesting and never scripted. For anybody that's out there, this is all completely off the cuff. Everything that happens on the show really does actually happen, and sometimes we hate ourselves after, sometimes probably not, but most of the time probably not. But I think when we get to the 90s, we should limit it, meaning, okay, so we had, 2 Scream films come out in the 90s, and then the third one hit in 2000. I think we can only pick one from each franchise. We can't have, 5 Nightmare on Elm Street. Can't have, 2 Screams. I think we should make it harder.
Huh. Yeah, that's maybe not a bad idea, because then, well, I mean, though, I just wouldn't want to have Nightmare on Elm Street at number 1 every time on a list. That's the only thing about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't think anybody would do that.
Because, it may be number 1 on my list on that particular year, but I guarantee you that if we do it year by year, the 80s and 90s, we'll get a lot of diverse answers. I'm fairly certain I'll probably pick some tonight that didn't even make it to your list or Vic's list, and that's one reason I like these shows, the diversity.
Yeah, I've already looked at a lot of the Friday the 13th years, and the Friday the 13th years are interesting because most of the time, even though I'm a huge Friday the 13th series fan, I don't usually rank them ahead of the other movies in the years that they came out. So we'll just see what happens there. We'll get into more details about it later, but we'll go ahead and kick things off with a pre-1970s horror. I'm going to let Vic kick it off because he just sent me his list, so I'm going to go ahead and get in with his number 10 first, since Vic is not able to join us for at least probably 30 minutes. But his number 10, his number 10 is universally, no pun intended, regarded as the best Universal monster movie. And, I guess this is really depending on your taste, but a lot of people think this is a masterpiece. Bride of Frankenstein is Vic's number 10. I mean, it's definitely iconic. You've got, the Frankenstein monster. You've got the bride. I mean, that was what kind of created the picture for what she would be for the rest of, I don't know, up to now. So
that was
Bride of Frankenstein,
right? That's 1935.
Yeah, it would be the one, the post 31 Frankenstein.
Okay, then it was 35.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. The one with the really interesting chick who played the bride. So again, classic by anybody's definition.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm drinking Chardonnay tonight, and it's nasty as shit. So I just want to say that Chardonnay sucks. Somebody got me this for Christmas, and I mean it's nice.
I haven't had a drink since New Year's Eve out of alcoholic stuff, so I'm not drinking anything as usual.
I'm about a once a weeker, Tuesdays. So
hey, you got to give me a little bit of credit. I did a whole little bottle of Fireball whiskey straight without mixing it with anything.
Yeah, Fireball. Fireball brings me back to the Manson show, which was an abomination, but also funny as hell. So, That's very true. That's very true. So, I like for people to listen to them, but at the same time, they're cringeworthy. So it's one of those things.
Hey, it's your niche. That's your your niche. That's your role. So.
Everybody has their thing. All right. So your number 10's up next, sir.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if we were going to go Vic, you, and then me, but I will be happy to go next. My number 10 is, in fact, a Universal movie, but it is not, one that probably a lot of people would think of. It is The Mummy from 1932 with Boris Karloff.
Fuck yeah, The Mummy. The Mummy is, I feel like it's kind of the forgotten character of the Universal monsters, but when I was growing up, it was a little more remembered than what it is now. You've got Wolfman, you've got Dracula, you've got the Bride of Frankenstein, you've even got, it's because I'm drunk, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, and, I feel like people forget about The Mummy, so that's a good one.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't tell you a whole lot about the Mummy from. I don't remember it that well. I mean, I saw it as a kid, and I think I even own it, but it's not one of those appointment viewings every year like Frankenstein and Dracula and all those. Those are like I need to watch those around Halloween, and I'll feel complete.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of those I think that's forgotten. The makeup is really good. If I'm not mistaken, that was another Jack Pierce creation. He was sort of the go-to, special effects makeup guy in the 20s and 30s there. This movie was released in December, 3 days before Christmas in 1932, which I thought was odd for a horror film like this to come out right before Christmas,
Yeah, it's like Scream. You remember we talked about that? Yep. So interesting. I like your number 10. So the Mummy is Blake's number 10, and we're sticking with the Universal monster theme. Because Vic went Bride of Frankenstein number 10, you went the Mummy number 10. I'm sticking with the Universal. I got to go Frankenstein at number 10. Now listen, Frankenstein is a classic. It is. I understand that, but I watched it over Halloween this last year, and it didn't hold up too well. And I don't mean that in terms of, it's 1931 or whatever, and the effects aren't great. Frankenstein's monster looks awesome. But the end of the movie where Victor Frankenstein is still alive, ridiculous. Or Henry Frankenstein, whatever the hell they call him in the movie. Ridiculous. So that's what dropped it for me. It would have been higher on my list had I done this list like 5 years ago. But, Frankenstein's still a good movie. It has a special place in my heart, but it's kind of silly at the end of the day, a lot of the things that went down in that movie. But, definitely iconic. You've got the, it's alive and all that shit. So, and you kind of get the introduction of Igor. Am I mistaken? In the book, there was no Igor. This is where Igor, came from.
Right.
So Frankenstein's my number 10. So it's all Universal, number 10 for all of us. Let's see how number 9 goes. Vic's up next. So with his number 9, again, we go Universal. I think Vic's going to be doing a lot of that because Vic, like I said, he hasn't seen a lot of these older movies, some of these atomic age movies like you and I have seen. But his number 9 is The Wolfman. And, of course, I'm not talking about the Benicio del Toro remake. I'm talking about the Lon Chaney Jr. one where, you've got a lot of great quotes, a lot of great scenes, and another one that I feel like kind of gets forgotten among Frankenstein and Dracula. Now, granted, Wolfman is very iconic, and it's more remembered than The Mummy. But, I bet you a lot of people today don't realize that it was even called The Wolfman. They know who a werewolf is, but I'm not sure that they know the movie The Wolfman, unless you're a little older. And I mean a little older even like our age. Like millennials.
Right. I would have to agree. And again, you can't have a pre-1970s list without including something from Karloff and Chaney. As you know, I was inducted with Chaney's family, at the convention I did in Las Vegas in 2016. And that was a great honor to share the stage with the great-grandson of somebody I grew up watching, all of his movies and read the makeup books and got to see, he did a lot of his own makeup, and cooperated with a lot of his own makeup, to create these memorable images. And The Wolfman is, just a classic among monsters. And I think that the remake gets a lot of hate, but I really do like the remake.
The first time I watched the remake, I was bored by it, and I didn't like it that much. But as I've watched it more times, I feel like it does not. It doesn't get enough credit. It's pretty good in its own right. It's a different story, and it's fun. So it is a little drab, but the story is drab. So what do you expect?
True.
All right, man. So, you're up next at number 9, buddy.
All right, I'm going to break the Universal Monsters thing for a moment and go something different. I saw this movie when I was 12, and it left an indelible impression on me, and I've never forgotten it. And it is The Thing from Another World, 1951, based on John Campbell's novel, Who Goes There?
Yes. It's funny that you bring that up because our first year during this podcast, we did a trilogy of movies. We did The Thing from Another World, and then we did The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and then we did The Thing prequel. And then, just last month, we did Peter Watts' The Things. So, I'm a big lover of that story, the John W. Campbell, Who Goes There. And The Thing from Another World is kind of a cool adaptation of that. The creature is obviously not like it is in the story where it's a shapeshifter and all that stuff, but it is definitely menacing in its own way. Good stuff, man.
Absolutely. And for a big-time actor to play the monster, for those that are listening that don't know, James Arness, who played Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke for 20 years, played the monster in this film. And it's fantastic because he doesn't have any lines, but he's still imposing.
He basically plays it. Yeah, he plays it like Frankenstein's monster or the creature from the Black Lagoon. So it's interesting to realize that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, that was a great choice. That was one that it's hard to forget about. I mean, that's one I watch every single year.